ABA programs. This method of behavior analysis has been used and studied for decades. They have helped many kids of learners gain different skills, from healthier lifestyles to learning a new language. Therapists have used ABA to help children with autism and related developmental disorders since the 1960s. So Autism Speaks here says that ABA is a flexible treatment that can be adapted to fit the needs of each person, provided in different locations, teaches schools, and one-to-one therapy, right? And right, so all of this so far, what we've read at surface level, granted, one came from fucking WebMD, the other came from Autism Speaks, obviously. That sounds pretty okay, right? That doesn't sound terrifying. Let's find out why it is. So Autism Speaks will imply that ABA works for everyone with these comments. They say it's evidence-based and effective for all ages, yet many of these sources will argue that ABA is actually controversial, and expecting autistic people who are neurodivergent to act neurotypical is not right. What about Sesame Street? What did Sesame Street teach us? You guys remember that video? Right? About, involving Julia before Autism Speaks got involved with her? Like, what did that teach us? What about celebrating our differences and learning to love them? Now, I'm not saying that ABA is this horrific thing that is just always going to, torture and beat the shit out of people. But it's not a one-size-fits-all therapy either. And in general, therapy is not a one-size-fits-all thing. You can't just assign everyone the same type of therapy and it will work for everyone. That's so short-sighted to think that way. So let's go to spectrumnews.org, and which is another pretty decent source. We're going to discuss and go over the controversy of autism's most common therapy, right? So let's go over this a little bit as well. So they're going to give a story here at the beginning. So ABA involves as much as 40 hours a week of one-on-one therapy. Certified therapists deliver or oversee the regimen organized around the child's individual needs. So ABA was tough on everyone at first. The mom says that he would cry sitting at the table during sessions, hysterically cry. I would have to walk out of the room and turn on the faucet to tune it out so I couldn't hear him cry. Once her son got settled and got the routine of it, things improved. Before he began therapy, Norin did not speak, but within a few weeks, the ABA therapist had Norin pointing his fingers at letters. Eventually, he learned to write letters, his name, and other words on a dry erase board, and he could communicate. Norin, who's now 10, had been receiving 15 hours a week of ABA therapy at home ever since. And he's at an ABA-based school, which I did not know that was a thing. So, in recent years, though, right, again, that sounds good. In recent years, the mom, Quinones Fontanes, and parents like her have had cause to question ABA therapy. Let's go ahead and zoom on that. These advocates, many of them childhood recipients of ABA, said that the therapy is harmful. They contend that ABA is based on a cruel premise of trying to make people with autism normal, a goal articulated in the 1960s by psychologist Oliver Lovas, who developed ABA for autism. Now, right now, Shatner said that Autism Speaks and the I Am Autism video from 1999, he said that that was old news, right? He said, like, no, that's old. That's such an old thing. It's not fair to use that anymore. ABA was since the 1960s, so wouldn't you also argue in Shatner's defense, or in his defense in the way he argues, that ABA then is also outdated? It just, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to say something is outdated, then this is also outdated. So what they advocate for instead is acceptance of neurodiversity. The idea that people with autism, or say attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or Tourette's syndrome, should be respected as naturally different rather than abnormal and needing to be fixed. Okay. ABA has a predatory approach to parents, says Ari Neiman, president of ASAN, and as a prominent leader in the neurodiversity movement. The message is that if you don't work with an ABA provider, your child has no hope, and that this is apparently a very large pressure to continue and push your child into ABA as a parent. And as a parent, I think a lot of these parents want to make the best decision for their child. I don't think they're thinking here about, everyone, saying ABA is good for my child, therefore it must be bad. I think there's probably a lot of parents here that are probably, they're scared, they want to do what's best for their child, and they don't know who to go to. So if they're going to, you know, probably one opinion, they go to one doctor, and that one doctor says, no, you know, try ABA therapy, they're probably going to try it because they're going to trust their doctor on that. And I know that there's, you know, this mixed thing. Some doctors don't recommend it now. So essentially, ABA is the idea of conforming to a system that you may or may not be conducive to receiving and accepting and blossoming and growing with, for the sake of the fact that you should do this because the rest of the society is, air quotes here, normal. So what's more, the therapy has a corner on the market. Most states cover autism therapy, including often ABA, perhaps because of its long history. But in California, for example, parents who want to pursue something else must fund it themselves. So that's another problem too. If there's a financial issue within, you know, that household unit, they may not be able to afford to send their kid to something other than ABA therapy. Like, that sucks too. So these criticisms haven't even made this woman, though, ditch Noren's ABA therapy, but they confuse her. She says she can see what the advocates are saying on some level. She says she doesn't want her son to be a robot merely repeating socially acceptable phrases on command because they make him seem like everyone else. So this is literally masking. It's the idea of masking here. You know, saying, hello, what's your name, as he's been taught, would not wait around for the answer because he doesn't really understand why he's saying it. He just knows to do his part, she says. And how is that? Like that's gotta suck to be in that position, to know that you just, oh, I say the word and now I look like I fit in. And now I'm normal like the other kids. Like, that sucks. That sucks. So the message that ABA might be damaging distresses her. She says, I am trying to do the best I can. I would never do anything to hurt my child. She says, this is what works for him. I've seen it work. And the question is, it works for him. I've seen him work. And the thing is it working for him? Because she also admits to this, that sometimes he's just doing what he's told because he's doing his, you know, his part of what he thinks is expected of him without really understanding why he's saying it. I would argue that's masking. She literally just described what masking is, and that ABA is not working for her son. She just doesn't know any better, and he probably doesn't know any better either. So whether ABA is helpful or harmful has become a highly contentious topic, such a flashpoint that few people who aren't already advocates are willing to speak about it publicly. Oh, I didn't know this was something people didn't want to talk about. Many who are asked to be interviewed for this article declined, saying they anticipate negative feedback no matter which side they are on. One woman who blogs with her daughter who has autism says she had to shut down comments on a post that were critical of her experience with an intensive ABA program because of the volume of comments. Many from ABA therapists defending the therapy was so high. So again, it's interesting, right? This is an interesting dynamic we sit in. What this article is showing is that ABA is not a perfectly functioning form of therapy. And what it can be teaching is some pretty harmful, well, I don't know. I don't want to say masking's harmful, but it can help detract and hide so that later on, down the line, many years from now, you can go get the type of help that you need, that you think is going to work for you. But because you spent so many years masking it, it might take you that much longer because now you feel like you're doing the right thing. And that sucks. So let's go ahead down to, what is this? In 1970, let's see, the Young Autism Project, blah, 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 blah. Is that a painting? That's pretty. So the therapy looked like a better alternative for parents than an institutionalization their children faced. In Lovis's first study on his patients in 1973, 20 children with severe autism, as the article says, received 14 months of therapy as institution. During the therapy, the children's inappropriate behavior deceased. The appropriate behaviors such as speech, play, and social nonverbal behavior improved, according to Lovas's report. Some children began to spontaneously socialize and use language. Their intelligence quotients also improved during treatment. When he followed up with the children 1 to 4 years later, Lovas found that the children who went home, where their parents could apply the therapy to some degree, did better than those who went to another institution. Although children who went through ABA didn't become indistinguishable from their peers as Lovas had intended, they did appear to benefit. So, something I want to bring up to you guys, which is something that, you know, maybe this is a bit of a reach, I don't know. Do you guys remember when I did the 3-part video about Andrew Wakefield, right? The guy that started essentially the modern variation of the anti-vax movement. Do you remember this one at all? And how his test study, when it was finally debunked, one of the reasons for it to be debunked was because he had, I believe it was 9 or 10 test subjects, and that is such a small sample number that variations are too high, and that it is overall damaging to the message. You need something with hundreds and thousands of participants in order to accurately determine the effectiveness of the study that you're trying to either prove or, you know, disprove, whatever result you want from it. So the fact that I'm reading right here that ABA therapy stemmed from a study in 1973 with 20 children is a little scary to me. That is a little uncomfortable from a scientific perspective. So that's kind of the main issue with ABA, right? Is it's forcing someone who thinks differently from, I guess, what this psychologist that designed ABA to be considered normal for society, which is kind of the same wording that Shatner uses, to be totally honest, and then forces people to essentially mask to meet that expectation, even if it's not actually happening. So that's kind of, that's the tea with that. So that's with ABA. Now, he doesn't like Asan, and we will get to that too, because he's got quite a few things to say about, like, Asan being bad. So he also says that, you know, ABA is kind of crappy piece of shit, and that they're scamming and all this kind of crap. So a good analogy for ABA is forcing someone with 20/20 to wear strong glasses. That's actually pretty fair. So here's what Asan says in one of their, I guess, newsletters. Asan praises ED letter urging schools to look beyond ABA. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Network applauds the Department of Education's office, I apologize, of Special Education Programs for their July 6th Dear Collegiate letter to states expressing concern that schools may be inappropriately limiting services offered to autistic children to those offered by applied behavioral analysis therapists. Some IDEA programs may be including applied behavioral analysis therapists exclusively without including or considering input from speech-language pathologists and other professionals who provide different types of specific therapies that may be appropriate, states the letter from OSEP Director Melody Musgrove. Ooh, my accent came out strong. We're going to go ahead and get that back in there. We recognize that ABA therapy is just one methodology used to address the needs of children with ASD and remind states and local programs to ensure that decisions regarding services are made based on the unique needs of each individual child with a disability and the child's family in the case of Part C of IDEA. Like, again, he says they're such a horrible fucking, like, group, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, listen to this. In light of this, Asan released a new guide this month for families seeking Medicaid coverage of autism behavioral health services beyond ABA. This resource is the first in a series of resources which will present information for autistic people, families, and advocates seeking to broaden service options available to the autistic community. We stand ready to work with our local partners to advance an inclusive vision of autism services across the country. Like, what is wrong with that? You know what I mean? Can I ask, what in dear God's name is wrong with that? Because I can't find it. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. And yet, here we are, a group that is for autistic people by autistic people is Asan. And they're literally saying, hey, if ABA doesn't work for you, we've released a new guide for how to work with Medicaid service coverage, so you don't have to put your child through ABA, so you don't have to put yourself through ABA. Like, look at this. And it's easy to understand with a link, with a download model plan, plans for policy holders. It's very clear and easy to understand language. Why, you know what I mean? Like, why is this bad? Well, Shatner thinks it's bad. So let's go back to some of his tweets from Kingy, from this collection. So this is going to be some of the Autism Speak stuff. So here he has the return exempt form of income tax for Asan for 2017, it looks like. And let me go ahead and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so this is going to be a real quick little moment because he keeps trying very hard to use this statistic, this form to say this. So he says, most advocates of Asan, but check out Asan's use of donations lines 8 and 15. That's definitely a -% going to help autistic people accept themselves. So he claims that Asan, the people that run Asan are essentially just pocketing all the donation money and they're not doing anything to help people. So, whereas I know he like tried to like screenshot on it, or the mis/disinformation published from Asan. I like how what that was in response to. I just noticed that is someone just says, maybe just let this one go, Captain. I thought you said Autism Speaks doesn't help us autistics. And he's like, nope, let me just shit on Asan real quick instead. So let's talk about Asan's income disclosure for 2017, right? Because that's the one that he likes to use to be like, you're bad man. Let's go ahead and look it over from one orange bad man to another. Because my God, does he look like Trump's doppelganger? And I can't get that out of my head after that one photo from earlier. He is a backpedaler. Yeah, look, he has no backbone. Granted, it's probably deteriorating, but that's a story for a different day. So the first thing I want to talk about is about Asan's income disclosures, right? Asan, very quickly. It's a charity for autism that I strongly support. I've done charity streams for them. As a matter of fact, when we hit 500,000 on the channel, I did a fundraiser for Asan, and it was something that I reached out to them beforehand in email to make sure that it was okay, that I kind of like advertised that this charity is for Asan. I didn't know if it was that you could just, you know, I don't know, just go out there and be like, hey, yeah, we're going to be supporting this charity if you had to ask. So I like emailed them and asked. Better safe than sorry. So I love how much money they put going towards advocacy and support. Now, William Shatner puts up this tweet of their 990 form. He pointed to one figure between $600,000 to $700,000 and said that all the money goes towards their company and their employees, right? So after all, when you look at the grant section, what they've paid out, it's considerably smaller. So that looks pretty damning, right? And let me pull up the form specifically, right? Because it's on Asan's website. So let's go ahead and actually pull up the form. Here's the 2018 one. Let's go ahead and go to the same line area that he wants us to focus it on, right? So it's going to be this line section here. I know looking at tax forms is probably not the most exciting part of your guys' day. I can't say it's the most exciting part of mine either, but it is important to understand where he's coming from with his misinformation so we can properly debunk it. So I apologize if this might get a little dry for some of you, but I assure you this is very important. Okay. So when you look at the grant section, right, it's pretty low. So grants and other similar amounts paid out, right? So you see that number, right? That looks pretty bad. So prior year is going to be the 2017 numbers, right? These are the 2018 numbers, right? That's just how that works. Okay. So when I first saw this number, you know, obviously in comparison to total revenue right above it, the 506,000 number right here, right? And only 25,000 was given in grants. That looks pretty bad, right? I was pretty taken aback as well. I was like, son of a bitch, maybe Shatner did it. I was like, maybe he was right about something. And I misknowingly, you know, raised a small fundraiser for all of us to donate a couple $1,000s to Asan. Maybe I fucked up too, right? I was a little shocked by it. And maybe I messed up. Right? It looks bad. So, unfortunately, that's not the case. So Asan breaks up their numbers in their report and how the grants are spent and how the 700,000 is spent too. So let's go ahead and pull that as well, because they disclose where all of those dollars go and why on the tax form they're classified that way. Because taxes are pretty cold and black and white. They only have a certain amount of things that go to a certain amount of places, and that's it, right? They don't have a special form for every little thing your specific company or charity does. They kind of group things together. So let's go ahead and see what happens. The form's reporting right now. We're looking at their annual report for 2019, and we're going to see the discussion of where exactly does that money go, because that is important to know. I think very important. So, oh, that's cute. They have a cute little taking action, their 2019 annual report. Healthcare is a human right. I don't want to hear any dissenting opinions. Y'all are wrong if you say otherwise. So their mission, this is a very cute report. So this is from Julia, the executive director, a message there. So toolkits, right? Following the money. It's important for self-advocates to understand how the federal budget gets made so we can advocate for a budget that funds programs that help us. But the federal budget process is complicated and confusing, even to people who have worked in the government for some time. That's why this year we've released a new easy-read toolkit called Follow the Money, the U.S. Budget, and You. Follow the Money break down the federal budget process and explain what it is, how it works, and how we can influence it, all in plain language. So do you see this, how once again Autism Speaks going above and fucking beyond to make sure that not only do you just get the fucking tax form, which Shatner is kind of throwing in people's faces, just the tax form, which not everyone can fully understand what a tax form is saying, but Asan takes the tax form. They will further break it down in this document in easy to read plain language so that everyone can understand what they're doing with the money. Something that Autism Speaks, for the record, does not do. So Asan, let me go to, let's go down a couple pages here. Where's page 13? Oh boy. All right. Here we go. Let's begin with their stuff. So 2019 revenue, 1.1 million is what we're dealing with. That's the number, right? Let's start with this breakdown, just so you guys can very clearly see this. Let me try, because I know the screen's kind of cut a little bit. We're gonna just cut the word revenue just a hair. Actually, we're gonna cut that there, just like that. I think that's pretty easy. So 56% grants and contracts, 19% donations, 16% other grants and contributions, 7% for special events, 1% for book and merch sales, 1% for fees or services, and less than 1% for member dues. Okay. Gamer Weeb, hello, I just wanted to say I love your content. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much, and I hope you're having a great day as well. So Asan is going to break these numbers down, how the grants are spent, and how the $700,000 is spent, and on all that stuff too. It very clearly states in their annual report, if Shatner bothered to do a shred of research before, you know, yapping, that the 60% of their expenses goes towards advocacy and 14% of their expense is administrative. So let's go ahead and look at the expenses. There we go. So just to clarify, graph 1 here, oops. Sorry. Graph 1 here. This is how much money they made, and this is how they made their money, okay? So, just so we're clear, this is how they have said they make their money. This is how they made this number. Now, here is how they spent this number, okay? They spent less than the 1.1 million, obviously. 58% is advocacy, right? 14% leadership programs. 14 is administration stuff. Let's go, just because this is something I need to show you guys. We're going to go to Charity Navigator. It's something that I reference a lot in my videos when we're discussing about how charities operate. Charity Navigator is a third-party watchdog, essentially, that watches charities. Here's Charity Navigator, okay, and their thoughts on Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. They give it a 100 out of 100, giving with confidence. Okay? That is a nice fucking score to have from Charity Navigator. They do not give that out to many charities, just so you are aware. Okay. Here's what they say. Finance and accountability, 100. 100. Okay, which means they are 100% accountable. Okay, so this charity score is a passing score. This overall score is identical to the organization's finance and accountability beacon score. It does not have an impact and results beacon. Each beacon report below provides further information about the organization's rating, including rationale as to why a particular beacon may not be scored. So they hire effect. They have independent board members. We look for at least 3 board members with more than 50% of the members identified as independent. Their liabilities to asset ratio, we look for a ratio less than 50% and no effect on score, but their total revenue, just over $1 million as of right now. Okay, there we go. So let's, the program expense ratio, again, so this is your program funding. So for right now, for this year, it shows that they've spent $696,000, 337, 83.4% of their budget on program and accessing and accessibility and things like that. Right here, they spent $43,479 on fundraising, which is to make people more aware that they exist so that they can receive more donations towards their cause. And right here, $95,199, 11.4% of the budget for this year so far. Administration. So, there's that, right? That's cool, right? That's whatever. Let's go ahead and look at Autism Speaks for some comparison here, you know, from Mr. Shatner. So, how come I don't get the cool little banner for this one? Damn it. They don't give me the cool visual, but whatever. Autism Speaks has an overall score out of 100, 83.65. Their financial score is 77.08 because they are not super financially transparent with their shit, right? Hi, Thrax. So, Autism Speaks, 100 out of 100 on points, 77 out of 100 points on financial. So yes, while that number does look initially deceptive, the way he pointed it out, when you start to break down where that money goes, you start to see very clearly that Autism Speaks is not super financially clear with their financials. Now with their transparency, a little bit, way better, but their financials are fucking garbage. That's terrible. Shatner cherry-picked one tax form and then even fucked it up with his own narrative. He did. That's exactly what happened, Kingy. So, are they going to have is this what I'm looking for? Okay, so here's their financial performance metrics. This is for Autism Speaks, just so that we're very clear about what the fuck this is, okay? So program expenses, a percent of the charity's total expenses spent on programs and services it delivers, 74%, right? So they say their administrative expenses are 7.5%, fundraising expenses 17.5%. Their, oops, oh, how did that happen? Their fundraising efficiency, what is my computer doing? I apologize. So here you go. All this stuff, let's go down. I think that's a comparable. I believe that's a comparable to a SON, the liability to assets. Liability assets ratio. So they have a 6.5%. Jesus Christ. Okay, they have an 8.7%. So again, not phenomenal, not too great. So they say they have all these things as well. A donor privacy policy. I don't know why that's unchecked. I guess maybe they don't. Damn, they made $56 million. Oh, this is the 2018 statement. Okay. That's a lot. Okay. So they claim in order for Autism Speaks to run this year. Okay. So they claim they made, let's see, total contributions 56. There we go. So they claim they made a total of 60 million this year. And they claim their administration expenses, and they spent a lot of money on fundraising too. So their total expenses were $40 million. So there's that for you. Back to Asan, who literally gets a fucking 100. And their ratio, there's their ratios. There's their tiny little sliver. There you go. It's just kind of a big difference. It's just a bit of a difference. But anyway. Let's go on back. So, oh, all the way back. Where's the Asan? Oh, I have so many tabs open right now. This is not cool. Okay, so back to this. This is their annual expense report, which is something that, again, Shatner clearly didn't want to read or felt was important to read before just spewing garbage into the world. So let's continue. This is where they show how their expenses were broken down. Okay. So if Shatner did do a shred of research, you'd see that the 60% of expenses go towards advocacy, 14% is administration. There are 990 from this recent year for 2019, so their total expenses were 789, 140. They break up that expense report with exact figures. And line 15 is what he tweeted, going, oh, line 15, that's salaries, but it's actually not. It falls under other compensation, which can also be used to help autistic people with more programs and stuff like that. And if he even bothered to scroll down on that form 990 to page 8, apparently, it's going to show the annual pay for their executive director. So let's go ahead and let me find the actual expense report again, because I have so many damn tabs open. So we'll go down to page 8, because he claims that Asan is putting the money directly into their executives' pockets. Let me see. I hate reading fucking tax forms. Is it page 8? Did I mess this up? Okay. Yeah, so officers, directors, trustees, key employees. There you go. So there's that. I don't know if you guys can read this number very fucking clearly here. But let me go. Oh, I cut off a little bit. Okay. So, this right here. We'll go D right here. Okay, here just 69,388. That's what the executive made. Can you see the first tweet again? 1 second. Here we go. So here's Shatner. Most advocates of Asan, but check out Asan's use of donations lines 8 and 15. That's definitely negative and not going to help autistic people except themselves. So he's saying that the people in Asan pocket the money. And when we go back to their report, their director, the big boss, $69,388. Right here, line 2 here says, total number of individuals, including but not limited to those listed above, who received more than $100,000 of reportable compensation from the organization. That is a 0. No one made more than $100,000 working for Asan. These are hardworking folks. And they don't get paid a lot to do it either. They're doing it because they love the cause that they stand behind, and they're working their ass off to do what's right. And to see someone like William Shatner spit in their fucking faces like this and manipulate stuff because he either doesn't understand how to read tax forms, or he doesn't want to read the tax forms and just feels that, well, I'm William Shatner, so I can say whatever the fuck I want and it's factual. That's not the case. You don't get to lie like that. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, reading tax forms, right? What a fucking joy this is. I just want to make that real fucking clear. That's what happened. There you go. So they're pocketing all this money. So they made $1.1 million, yet only $69,388 was spent in expenses to the executive, and no individual made over $100,000 at that company. Did I miss something? No, I don't think I did. I think this is very fucking clear. This line right here debunks so much. The only tax form you enjoy reading. I hate reading tax forms too. They suck. They're overcomplicated. I hate them to tears. And it shows, especially with Shatner, he doesn't know how to read a fucking tax form, because if he did, he would see this and wouldn't spout out the bullshit he spouts out, like this. Like, you can't be this fucking dumb, my dude. Well, actually you can, because you did, and we got the screenshots for it. But I'm just saying, like, if you looked at this, here's another thing. These are all no's, by the way. Did the organization list any former officer, key employee, highest compensated employee? If yes, then do this. They said no. Are any individuals, is the sum of reportable compensation greater than $150,000? No. Did any person receive or accrue compensation from any unrelated organization or individuals for services rendered to the organization, aka getting some money from outside your gig? No. This is, you know what I mean? Like, are reading tax forms sometimes boring? Yes. But do they bring out the truth in a lot of this shit? Also, yes. So I hope we got that part out of the way. It's not to say he won't stop using the form to throw that down people's throats to try and shut people up, but this should be a pretty quick debunking. Now, let's continue to Autism Speaks, because Shatner also says how people who hate Autism Speaks are brainwashed.
Your feet